Liberia. After nearly 3 decades under the authoritative rule of President William Tubman, Liberia is entering a new chapter. Tubman's death brings his vice president, William Tolbert, to power. A wave of expectation follows. Liberians are ready for a fresh start, hoping for a government that promises greater democracy, freedoms, and respect for the rule of law. Tolbert, a former Baptist preacher, encouraged this expectation under the slogan, "Total involvement for higher heights," from mat to mattress, advancing Liberia from a restricted society to one of promise and participation. His attire, a simple safari suit, symbolizes the shift from the lavish display of his predecessor to a more accessible, relatable leader. Tolbert's policies, ambitious and progressive, spark change in Liberia. He improves the infrastructure, extending roads from farm to market, hoping to revitalize agriculture. Clean water, electricity, and even free university education reach further than ever before, striving to improve daily life for ordinary Liberians, particularly young Liberian professionals from indigenous backgrounds. His energy and speed of implementation earn him the nickname Speedy. For a while it seems Liberia is indeed turning a corner. On the global stage, Tolbert sought to redefine Liberia's identity. Breaking away from Liberia's deep-rooted, almost dependent relationship with the United States, he fostered new alliances. Tolbert helped found the Economic Community of West African States and the Mano River Union, championed African unity, and strengthened ties with neighboring countries. But beneath the surface, Liberia is changing, and the challenges for Tolbert are mounting. The demand for a more democratic government is stronger than ever. There were 2 main dilemmas his administration had to come to grips with. The first dilemma President Tolbert faced was an ideological dilemma: which way the country would go. Tolbert's inability to respond sufficiently to the demands for more democratic participation in government, it was time for a paradigm shift from an oligarchical form of government to a more inclusive, transparent, and accountable form of government. The perceptions and expectations of government by a new generation did not seem to have been identified, let alone appreciated by the government. Young, educated Liberians are calling for political reform, while powerful elites insist on preserving the status quo. A full range of emerging national actors that included student leaders, the newly emerging political leaders, including leaders from Moja and the Progressive Alliance of Liberia. Pressures for democratic change were met either by the offering of patronage or by threats of punishment, and both were frequently resisted. The second dilemma that faced the government was Tolbert's family was highly skilled and achievement-oriented. Many members of his family were astute business people long before President Tolbert acceded to the presidency. One of his brothers had become a successful entrepreneur. The president himself was a successful businessman. By 1975, the business holdings of the president and his family were enormous, and they were visible and had become an issue in the political debate. Family businesses included fishing and poultry enterprises, automobile and heavy equipment dealerships, a services light industries such as an aluminum frame and parts manufacturing business, a soap and detergent manufacturing business, a textile and uniform distributorship, a vast rubber plantation in Sino and rice distributorships. Tolbert family did not only have a substantial presence in the economy, it also had a substantial control of the government. Tolbert's brother Frank was president pro tempore of the Senate. His brother Stephen was Minister of Finance. His sister Lucia was mayor of Bentall City. His son A.B. was an ambassador at large. His daughter Wilhelmina was the presidential physician. His daughter Christine was deputy minister of education. His niece Tula was the presidential dietitian. His 3 nephews were assistant minister of presidential affairs, agricultural attaché to Rome, and vice governor of the National Bank. His 4 sons-in-law held positions as Minister of Defense, Deputy Minister of Public Works, Commissioner for Immigration, and board member of Air Liberia. One brother-in-law was ambassador to Guinea, another was in the Liberian Senate, a third was mayor of Monrovia. So here was a substantial presence of a family network, not only in business, but in all three branches of government. Tolbert's family's prominence becomes a symbol of inequality. Many Liberians saw this concentration of power as an unchecked form of nepotism, reinforcing the perception of a ruling elite isolated from the common people. President Tolbert was a good man. He did many good things, but these dilemmas overwhelmed the system, particularly from the perspectives of those who sought change. Now all of these dynamics are playing themselves out in an environment of economic decline. While Liberia's economy flourished in the 1960s, by the late 1970s, the gains are waning. Iron ore and rubber exports dwindle, and the rate of growth that once rivaled prosperous nations drops dramatically. Unemployment soars, particularly in Monrovia, where it climbs to a staggering 39%. In 1979, a new crisis brought Liberia's struggles to a boiling point. Tolbert raised the price of rice, Liberia's staple food, in an effort to boost local production. But to a country already facing high unemployment and inflation, this increase felt unbearable. Rumors circulated that Tolbert's cousin, a major rice importer, would profit from the decision, intensifying anger toward the ruling elite. The rice riots erupted, and Liberians took to the streets in protest. Tolbert's government responded with force, ordering police and troops to open fire. Dozens were killed. For the first time, Tolbert's rule appeared unsteady, and the hope he once inspired began to crumble. In the wake of the riots, Tolbert's efforts to contain dissent grew desperate. He allowed the formation of an opposition party, but quickly arrested its leaders when they called for a general strike. Charges of treason and sedition followed. His vision for a unified, progressive Liberia seemed to slip further away with each act of repression. Then, in the early hours of April 12, 1980, a group of 17 soldiers, led by 28-year-old Master Sergeant Samuel Doe, took matters into their own hands. Scaling the walls of the executive mansion, they forced their way in. Tolbert, caught by surprise, was defenseless. They found him in his upstairs bedroom, in his pajamas. Moments later, William Tolbert was dead. Liberia's first peaceful hopes for reform had come to a brutal end. Tolbert's presidency would be remembered for its ambition and reform, yet overshadowed by the dilemmas he could not resolve. Caught between an old guard clinging to power and a new generation desperate for change, Tolbert's legacy became a lesson, a reminder of the fine line between reform and revolt, between progress and the status quo. Join us next time for another exploration into the pages of our shared history.